Hey everybody, welcome to Down on Backyard Gardening. I have a question for you. Have you ever bought a start from the store and you pot it and like a month later that thing is so big you can't understand what in the world you were thinking? Yeah, so we're gonna fix that mistake today with the cherry tomato that is way too big for the pot I put it in, and we're gonna get it in the ground where it belongs. So hey, let's grow. Tomato plant I'm talking about is this one right here. This is a yellow pear tomato. Now about a month ago, I don't even know if it was a month ago, honestly, y'all, that plant was about this big. Look at this thing now. This thing is huge, and it's in this little pot. Yesterday I was out here watering, and I actually looked at the plant. I'm like, holy mackerel, this thing is huge. It has to get out of this pot. Because, as you all know, or if you're new to gardening, potted plants are great, but tomatoes, if you're going to have them in a pot, you have to constantly amend and amend and amend and amend, because those plants can only get the nutrients that are in that pot, as opposed to being in the ground where they can send out their runners and their roots to go find what they need. But I was in such a hurry to get things planted about a month ago. Actually, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, because the freezes were pretty much over, that I just stuck it in that pot, not thinking that it would grow like it's growing, knowing I would probably have to up pot it at some point, but not this soon, and definitely not to the level that thing is now. So we're gonna go ahead and get it put in the garden. I'm gonna show you all exactly how I do it, why I do it, and an extra trick to go along with the tomato plant. The place I'm gonna put them is right here. I'm gonna put a tomato plant there, and in this one. There's nothing in either of these two beds. Now originally I was going to have a bunch of squashes, zucchinis, cucumbers all along this fence line like I normally do. But I said last fall, that I was done with spring squash and zucchinis. I just can't grow them. I get hit with vine borers, even though I do have tricks to keep those out, which I'll put a link to one of those videos right here. But they don't grow. They just don't grow. Now I did say I would focus really hard on white scallop squashes this spring. That is my mission, to grow those. And these right here are the white scallop squashes. Now as I pan out, you'll see a bunch of other yeah, squashes and zucchinis. Couldn't help myself, y'all. I had to plant them. So, but I've only got them planted over in this section. Don't have them over there against that fence line. So that left me with a problem. What am I going to put over here? And again, yesterday, as I was watering, I got home from work, come out here into my Zen garden, started watering. It's like, man, I need to put something in these two spots. Well, by the time I started watering over there, it hit me. Dude, what are you doing with that tomato plant in that pot? So it's time to move it. But I also noticed something else. This tomato plant right here is 100% a volunteer. I don't have a clue what that tomato plant is. I know it's a determinate, so I know it's not an indeterminate. I would have had it over in that bed. It's definitely a determinate tomato plant, and it's getting too big for that pot. So we are going to get both of these tomato plants out of these two pots over in the garden, so they can actually start doing what they should be doing. Growing. Okay, got them both over here. Now the good thing about a tomato plant is they are incredibly hardy. So you don't have to be super gentle getting them out of these pots, especially these sizes. But at the same time, I'm not gonna just go crazy on it. So we're gonna dig the holes first where we're gonna put the tomato plants, then I'm gonna slowly just get them out of the pot. Here we go. Okay, one thing I had to watch out for was this watering hose. I have one here and one like right through here. But other than that, I think we're pretty good on the depth. I'm gonna sprinkle in some bone meal and blood meal like I do at the bottom of every hole, every seed that I plant. And because we're doing a tomato, I'm gonna put in some eggs. Just from added calcium. Could probably put a lot more, but this is literally all I have. One for each plant. A really good root system. You see, that's the original plant right there. So this thing's good to go. Okay, because this is a tomato plant, I'm going to come back through and trim off these bottom leaves to keep the plant off the ground. As you know, if you've grown tomatoes for a long time, or even if you're a beginner, here's the thing: you never want leaves of a tomato plant on the ground. That is normally how diseases will get into a tomato plant. It's through contact with the leaves and the ground. Those pepper plants right there are still healthy and good. I'll fill that back in, add a couple more pepper plants in there, and then that pot's good to go. So we're gonna do the same thing on this plant, but you see where this stalk is? It's right at the edge, and then we've got all this overhang. Might have to actually cut this branch off to keep this off the ground once I plant it, but we'll see. Really good root system again on that plant. Okay, this plant's gonna be tricky. Because it had sit in that pot for so long, this limb is bent down. I'm gonna raise this plant up. And then put a stake on this limb right here because it's bent so bad, and hopefully this will help keep it somewhat up off the ground. But again, I will have to come in here and really trim a lot of these leaves off to keep them off the ground. This one's going to be a challenge, I'm not going to lie to y'all. That one should be a lot easier. The last thing I have to do is water them in, clean up that area, of course. But I want to give those plants a really good chance at surviving without pests. You all have read this book right here or watched any of the companion planting videos that I put out over the last couple weeks. You know where I'm about to go with tomatoes and basil. Basil. Now, if you have to go buy the basil, that's all right, go buy it. But once you plant it, let that thing go to flower, because this is what you can expect the following spring if you let your basil plants go to flower. Y'all, I never have to buy basil again. Literally, all of this is basil, just everywhere. So I'm gonna transplant five or six of these plants from here over around those tomato plants to help create that force field around the plants from the hawk moth that lays the eggs for the tomato hornworm. Let me show you all how easy it is to transplant basil. And once you have it coming up like I do right here, you can literally move it all over your garden and you're never going to have to buy basil again, unless you just want new varieties of basil. But once this stuff flowers, drops the seed, y'all, it's off to the races. You're good to go. Okay, so for my garden, I want the basil plants in these cinder blocks. I don't necessarily need them all through the garden. So these in here, I've been moving all over the garden. Get a shovel. If you have one of these things are awesome. I got this for a Christmas present like 3 years ago, and I absolutely love this. Thank you, Ashley. just come right in underneath the basil plant. Don't drop it. Get rid of the weeds. This was the one I was actually going for. This one right here is a purple basil, and this is probably just, I don't know, a regular green basil. But that's all you need to do right there. Scoop them up. So we'll put that one right there. We'll put this nice big one. And seriously, everybody, that's as easy as it is. I'm gonna do this about 4 more times. Really put a bunch of basil over there. All I have left after that is to water it in. Everybody, it's that simple. This all took me about 15 minutes to do everything. A little longer, honestly, because of the camera and moving everything around. But to be completely honest, about 15 minutes. Got 2 tomato plants that should be incredibly viable and really produce tomatoes probably pretty soon, because both of those plants already have flowers. And then moving the basil around, 15 minutes tops, super easy. Now, one thing I did not mention, another reason I wanted these tomato plants right here is because of what's in that bed. This is all onions that I planted right there. Once they start coming up, it'll create just another level of force field around these tomato plants. Because again, onions, radishes, and basil, 3 great companion plants for tomatoes. So these 2 should be pretty much safe, I hope. All right, everyone, that's the video. If you enjoyed it, if you learned anything from it, if you got anything out of it, do me a favor, share it, like it, and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. As always, everyone, take care, God bless, and I'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye.